Welcome, welcome. We are, of course, doing the very final Parsha of the book of Leviticus, which is Bechukotai. And we are in the midst of these dire consequences that are going to happen, that are predicted will happen in the book of Leviticus if the Jewish people fail to live up to their covenant with God. And of course, it's on the surface, of course, it's terrible. The consequences are awful, and it seems like very, very harsh punishment, which it is certainly very harsh. The consequences are very harsh. But there's also a silver lining to this, which says that basically saying that the divine creator has this deep, deep desire to have this good relationship with the Jewish people. And of course, the more you love someone, the more you're hurt and disappointed when they do things to act in a way that isn't faithful and loyal. I mean, it's definitely in proportion to the love that you bear them. So in some ways, this material that we're reading right now is a testimony to God's love of the Jewish people. So anyway, let's keep going and go into this further.
Did we do the blessing?
Maybe we didn't, so let's do it. Thank you, Lauren. I'm almost certain we didn't. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. So yesterday, and I hope if you weren't here, that you will check it out. I think there was an opportunity to learn some interesting things, and I went ahead and did some preaching at the beginning or in the middle of it. But anyway, if you're interested. So we see, as you can see here, this Rashi started on the previous page, and it's this long, long Rashi. And what he does is he goes through the Sifra. He quotes a lot from the Sifra, that is that halachic midrash on the book of Leviticus, explaining the various little elements and their connectivity from the point of view of one thing leading to another, and God, in a sense, trying to get our attention. And he mentions, it talks in one place about, it says Sheva al Chatatchem. In other words, 7 types of consequence. And Rashi tells us, according to the Trot that it corresponds to 7, right? Sheva Poraniot, 7 terrible disasters, punishments for 7 averot, for 7 transgressions, amorot lamala, which are stated above. So I didn't do this yesterday, but in my preparation, I went back to look and see if I could find the 7, right? 7. So here we go. We'll go all the way back to the beginning of these curses, right? And they begin here, right? Imlot tishma'u, if you pay no heed. So there's one transgression, not paying heed. V'lo ta'asu, and you won't perform. So that's number 2, kol hamitzvot ha'eleh. B'chotai tim'asu, and you reject, right? You loathe my statutes. So I think keep count for me, please. Is that number 3 or number 4? Number 4, I think, right? Is it? Let me know. Okay. So in mishpatai tigal, right? Again, it's got to, it has to do with a
I
certain.
think it was 3.
Okay, so that's 4.
It was 3.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, because I'm trying to focus on 2 things at one time, right? So, okay, so this is number 4, right? Is that correct? No, yeah.
It is. What are you saying is number 4?
I think this one, right? I'll just go back quickly.
Well, I'm confused because
Okay,
number
here's
3.
one. Here's one. Here's number 1. And here's number 2. And here is number 3. And
Okay,
this is
so number
4.
3,
Right.
it says, if you despise my statutes and reject my ordinances, is that 1 or 2?
That's 2. That's 2.
So then that would be 3 and 4.
That is 4, right. Levilti asot et kol mitzvai, so that you don't perform any of my mitzvahs, okay? Lahafrachem et briti, and there's another one, right? So this is number 5, right? So that's 5. So that's to overcome, to crush my covenant, right? So that seems to be five, unless there's one extra here that is implied. Okay, so now go back one more time and take a look at this, right? In Lord Tishma'u. So that's you're not hearkening, right? That's one. Here's number two. Here's number three.
Are you able to highlight them
Four.
so
Oh,
so
okay, there.
the count remains?
Right. Okay. Good idea. Oh, it doesn't. It just unfortunately. Let me see
Oh,
here. Hold on a
Yeah,
second.
you would have to have
Okay,
a
so
highlighter.
okay, I do. There we go.
There you
Okay.
go.
I think this will work. We'll try. Okay, I'm gonna have to do this again.
No, that's,
Yes.
oh,
What?
okay.
Yeah.
It may have erased the other one though.
I don't think so. We'll see. I don't know why this is not. Oh, there we go. Okay, there we go. That's one. Great idea. Number two. Let me make sure I still have. Yep, still on yellow. Okay. This is number three. Right. And this is number four. And this is number five. Oh, so it's not, we got six. There's five. And here's number six. So I've got six. And I was struggling to see where the seven was. Okay. So it keeps going. Okay. And this now tells you the covenant, right? And Rashi explains these various types of plagues that come, right? And here, this is all here. This is all the consequences in those verses. Okay, here we go. Here's number seven.
woohoo!
Thank you. Yes, get this in here. For some reason, it's fun. Oh my God. Okay, that's good. There's
Good.
seven. There's seven.
Yay!
Yeah. But I had to go chasing after this one. I couldn't find it to begin with. Okay.
Is and what verses did the first one start in? Is it the beginning of the chapter?
Let's see. No. So it
So I'd
starts
like to go
verse
back and
14.
14. Starts
Mm-hmm.
so it's chapter 26, verse 14.
okay, I'd like to find them too.
Okay. 26, 14, and 15. Okay. And then going on to verse 18. Okay. Let's go into here. Let's see where we are. Okay. So, okay, right. Here we go. Vishavarti, this is where we left off, I believe. Vishavarti, and I will break it gaon uschem, the excellency or the pride of your power. But that's going to require some explanation. V'natati et shmechem kevarzel, and I will set your skies like iron, v'et artzachem kenechoshet, and your land like brass. Okay, here's Rashi. V'shavarti et gonuschem, right? I shall break the excellency of your power. It says what this actually refers to is Ze Beit HaMikdash. This is a reference to the temple. V'chein hu omer, and we have some support of that. It states in Ezekiel 24, Hineni mechalel et mikdashi. Behold, I am going to profane my sanctuary. And there it goes. Look at this. Gaon uschem. It actually uses that term. The excellency of your strength. V'natati et shmechem gebarzel v'et artzachem kenoshet, and I shall make your skies like iron and your land like brass. Zo kashe nishel Moshe. This curse was actually worse than the one that Moses pronounces, because we have two places where we have passages like this. The one right here that we're studying, and then later on towards the end of the book of Deuteronomy, we have a whole bunch of these similar kinds of consequences. Why is it worse? Here, Shesham, because there in Deuteronomy, Hu Omer, it says, and this is Deuteronomy chapter 28, V'ayu shamecha, and the heavens asher al roshcha, and the heavens over your head, nechoshet, they will be brass, etc. And then it says, of course, that the land will be like iron. So it's just the opposite, right, in comparison. Sheyu hashamayim mezi'im, that because this would mean that the heavens would, in a sense, perspire. In other words, that there would be some rainfall, kederech shehanachoshet mezi'ah, just as brass sweats. Haaretz eina mazi'ah, but in that case, the land would not sweat, meaning there wouldn't be any dew coming from that. Excuse me, 1 second. And let's see, right. Kederech she'ein habarzel mazia, just as iron does not sweat. Vehi mishameret peratah. So in that particular case, where the heavens bring down at least some moisture, right? They perspire, and the earth is dry, the fruit, right, the produce is able to last. It doesn't rot. Aval kan, but here, hashamayim lo yumaziin, here it says that the heavens will not perspire, kederech she'ein har barzel mazia, just as the iron doesn't sweat. Vayehe chorev, and there will be a drought. Ba'olam, in the world. Va'aretz tehei mezi'ah, but the earth will in fact perspire. In other words, there'll be moisture coming up from the earth. Shehanachoshet mezi'ah, because we know the brass sweats. V'hi ma'abedet peiroteha, and it destroys the fruit that's on the ground. So that's why it's worse. And that's, I think, all we've got up here. Okay. Yeah. V'tam larik kochachem, and your strength, koach, your strength, will come to an end for nothing, for nothing. V'lo titen artzachem et yevula, so the earth will not, or the land will not give forth its produce. Ve'etz haaretz lo yiten piryo, and the trees of the land will not give their fruit. They will not give their fruit, and we'll take a look and see what Rashi has to tell us about that, right? V'tam larikochachem, right? Your strength will come to an end for no purpose. And again, quotation, or at least a citation from Torah Kohanim. Hare Adam shelo amel, he says, look, the Torah Kohanim says, if a person doesn't labor, shelo charash, he didn't plow, shelo zara, he didn't sow, shelo nikesh, he didn't weed, shelo kiseach, he didn't clear out the thorns, shelo adar or ider, he didn't hoe. In other words, he didn't work the land. He didn't do anything, right? Uvisha'at hakatzir, and the time for harvesting came. It came. Sorry. Uvisha'at hakatzir, wasn't reading this correctly. And at the time of harvest, shidafon, a flood comes, umelake oto, and it destroys his fields. Okay. Ein bekachlum. You can't say much. It's not a big deal, right? Because he never bothered to begin with. He didn't go to any trouble, and he lost what would have been growing in and of itself, but he didn't take the trouble of it. Aval adam she'amal, but when you talk about a person who labored, v'charash, and he plowed, v'zara, and he sowed, v'nikesh, he weeded, v'kisech, he cleared out the thorns, v'eder, and he hoed, uvashidafon emalake oto, and a flood comes and wipes out his produce and everything, his fields. Hare shinav shel zekahot. Behold, literally, this is the teeth of this one become thick, something like that. Set on edge, or set on edge. In other words, it really kills you emotionally. V'lo titin atzachem et yivula, and the land will not provide you its produce. And again, Torah Kohanim. Afma she'ata movil la b'shat hazera. He says, even that which you bring over to her at the time of sowing, right? It won't give you back. The eitz haaretz, and the trees of the land, again, Torah Kohanim, afilu min haaretz yahei lakui, they saying that even it will be destroyed or hurt or, from the land, shelo yachnit peroteha, because it won't form fruits, b'sha'at hachanata, at the time when the fruit is supposed to form. You can have trees, fruit trees that flower, but it doesn't mean that those buds will actually form fruit. It may not happen. So, lo yitain, it will not given, mishamesh lamala ulamata. He says this will not give refers both from what preceded it and what follows it. So let's see what it says. Okay. So he's saying that the lo titen atzechem can refer to tam larik kochachem, and the lo titen atzechem et yivula can refer to eitz haaretz lo yiten biro. That this lo titen atzechem et yivula, your land will not provide produce, both stuff that you sow in the field and also the trees, the fruit trees. Let's find the place. Okay. Yes, David.
So in those two cases between, the person that doesn't do anything and it washes away versus the one that does,
Yes.
is the point that they're both paying the consequences of for what they've done individually, or is it overall, that the land is not, doing what it's supposed to do?
Right.
So which one is, anyway.
Right. I think the point actually that's being made here is that what Rashi's doing is analyzing the curse and saying to what extent it goes. So it isn't so much that the person who doesn't try, etc. He's saying that this curse is so bitter. He's describing the level of bitterness of this curse. And it's
Okay.
referring to the person who's gone to all the trouble of preparing the field and doing everything you need to do to create a crop, and at the end the crop got washed away. He says
So
that person is going to feel very different from the person who never bothered to begin with. Okay.
got it. So it's the magnitude of it that he's really using.
That is
Yeah.
what yes.
Got it.
That's the issue. Not you got punished, you didn't get punished.
Yeah.
It isn't that. Right. It's simply saying to what degree. Yeah, the magnitude. All right. Let's see. Here we go. Yeah. Ulamata eitz v'apri. It refers. Oh, sorry. No, it could be. I don't know. Maybe I was mistaken about this because he's saying it refers. Okay. He's saying it refers to both the tree and the fruit. So whether or not, in fact, I misunderstood this Rashi, and again, I did prepare it, but it could be, because very often when it says lamala or lamata, he refers to what happened in an earlier part of the verse and a later part of the verse. So that's why I took it that way. But now that I'm looking at this, right, that it refers, but the above is referring to the fruit in the tree. Sorry, the pre refers to the fruit in the tree, that would be above, and the eitz would be the tree itself, I imagine, that is rooted in the ground. So it could be that that's what he's talking about. I mean, generally, I think when we're talking about crops, I think we'd be talking about shnuva, right? Like grain crops and things like that. So, but it just right now, I have to say I'm not certain exactly what Rashi is referring to here. Lo yitain piryo, it will not provide its fruit. Keshehu mefareh mashir perotav. So when it does in fact form fruit, the fruit drops it off. Haresh klalot. So now we have two curses, right? Veyesh kan sheva puraniot, and I guess if you count up the various punishments or retributions that have been mentioned up to this point, we actually wind up with 7. I would have to go back and count them and see how they work out. So I think this is a good place for us to stop today. And what I'll do is I will try and count out the 7, see if I can highlight them and take a look. So here we go. We're right here, verse 21. Okay. And I'm going to stop the share. Mark the page. Stop the share. Any comments before we go on?
Yeah, I was wondering, when they are davening the Torah itself, when it comes to the curses, they do it real softly. I can't hear them.
Yeah, that's right. That's
In
right.
other words, are they afraid if they
Oh.
did it loudly, it would happen?
No, I don't think that's the reason. It mentions that in the halachot. I think the main is that it's in some levels, of course, very insulting, right? And and you don't ever want to insult the congregation, right? I mean, it's saying very harsh things, and you just want to try to avoid saying very harsh things to a congregation. And I think that's the reason it's said quietly. Yes, Diana.
When you say it said quietly,
Mm-hmm.
can you say more?
Yes, the Torah reader is instructed to sort of quickly, what he does is he reads it very quickly as he reads through the curses.
Are
So,
there other passages in Torah where that's true as well?
yes, in Deuteronomy, where the curses are, where Moses,
Okay.
so those would be 2 places where that tradition is held.
I thought I've heard of it before. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Or witnessed it, I should say.
Yes, they well
Thank
have
you.
done it. Yes. There's also I think there's also a tradition of starting it. Let's say, hold on one second. I'll share just for a minute again. Let's take a look at where the Aliyah starts. Okay, wait a second. You should be able to see it. So before we start the verses, right, this is where if you're not going to do it. So notice that it doesn't start there. It actually starts. The Aliyah actually starts elsewhere. Here we go. Here's where the Aliyah starts. And this is still the blessings. And there's a tradition where the person who gets the Shlishi Aliyah, the Shlishi Aliyah is actually, he makes his brachas, over the Torah, and then the reader reads the verses that are the blessing and stops here, pauses here, and the person who got the Aliyah does his second Aliyah, and then the reader just keeps going on without this. Because again, you just don't want to associate it with an individual, etc. But that's another custom involved there. So it's very, very.
Do you mean the aliyot string together, but you don't bring another person up to say the blessing? Is that what you just said?
What I'm saying is that even though he finishes his aliyah here, he says, Asher Natan Lanu Torah Emet, etc. The second bracha, and then the reader just goes on without anybody else sort of saying the brachas over this.
Okay.
Right. So it's just simply included in that third aliyah.
Thank you.
You bet. Okay. And we'll stop.